how does the International Criminal Court, one of the two parties that have been engaged, is the one which has committed crime, and the other one is innocent? Thank you.
Thank you so much, the ICC team. I have two questions. First of all, I want to appreciate the milestone ICC has taken in the LRA insurgency. The last time I was in a similar workshop here, the issue then was bring out charges against Joseph KONY. And around that time, I couldn't picture exactly how it's going to be. But the progress is good. Except I have a question that, according to the paper, according to what you presented, KONY is charged with crime on 8 sides. Yeah? On 8 sides.
Yes.
Yeah. But to my understanding, I would wish that this charge for the rest of the sides away from.
I understand it looks strange when you first see it. On the Aboka girls, I share your concern, but we have a temporal limit to what we can do. Our temporal scope starts in 2002. I cannot go before that. But what I have done, and what I hope will be allowed by the judges next year, is to recognize these types of incidents in the history of the LRA as pattern evidence of their criminality. And definitely the abduction of the Aboka girls already features in our prepared presentation in that regard. I know it's not enough, but at least they will feature in our narrative to the world that happened. And that is they are one of the many incidents preluded as prior to our scope that we can charge. On the question of documents, what do you tell victims who want to sign up for participation? If you have a group, a person where you think based on our charges they could qualify, then the only thing I can advise is have them as clearly as possible state out their victimization. If possible, provide documentation of their age. Yeah? It is a case-by-case situation. Some may have been under 15, others may have been above 15. But for the charges against KONY and for being able to qualify as a victim, it doesn't matter so much. What matters is the accuracy of their documentation and what they say. But nobody should feel compelled to try to, make themselves seem under 15, because it doesn't matter for the charges. We have put in counts for children up to the age of 18, yeah? For the systematic who were abducted and enslaved, both boys and girls, yeah? So I wouldn't worry about that too much. When you interact, you just, it has to be as accurate as possible, so there's no risk that there will be a rejection. But no concerns there should be about the age of 15. Yeah? Last question, and then I'll pass on to the judges. Yes, there is overlap with the Ongwen case. And for me, it was never a question to leave those sites out, because in the hierarchy of the LRA, Ongwen was below KONY. Ongwen was receiving orders from KONY. We cannot leave those cases out of the responsibility of KONY. The evidence shows, just like for the other attacks, his responsibility. But the DCC, our document containing the charges, is not limited to those attacks. We also have the systematic criminality that stretches across 3 years in northern Uganda. And in those, we are going to try to highlight the examples of abductions of both men and women and what happened to them. Abductions from villages, from the roadside, from any parts. It was so rampant that, of course, we will not be able to list everybody, but we will be able to show the systematic nature of it by bringing out victims' narratives that show the type of cases, yeah? And that goes for children as well as for adults, yeah? So they were on all the sites of the IDP camps where people were seeking refuge, people were abducted and enslaved. So all of that we try to capture. Yeah, I hope that answers your question and I've understood it properly. What happens when KONY dies? Unfortunately, that's the end of the proceedings. That's it. Tangible evidence. We're not just going to terminate if there are rumors, but if there's tangible evidence, we will have to request for termination, or the judges will move themselves. Yeah, that is the situation under the Rome Statute. However, our intelligence shows
this country. But the first answer is to say there is no obligation of the state to cooperate with us. And when it is a state party, obviously that obligation exists, and we've seen it in the past. It happened with Omar al-Bashir, who traveled to Uganda, who traveled to South Africa and other countries. In South Africa, the judge was independent and courageous enough to say, let's get him arrested. Before that was implemented, he was already on the flight going back to his country. And when, unfortunately, in the ICC system, when a state does not with that obligation to arrest and surrender, the mechanisms to actually compel that state to cooperate are very not strong enough. So what will happen is that there will be a report by the judge, a decision on non-compliance, which would be sent to the Assembly of State Parties, which is the legislative body of the ICC, and it will be up for that assembly to make a decision on the non-cooperation of that state. In relation to whether when two parties are actually engaging in a conflict, what are the guarantees for us to ensure that the other side or one of the sides is not committing crimes? Well, the thing is that when you have a conflict, whether it's between two states or between states, government and a rebellion, a militia group, and we've had many of the ICC cases about that. What you take into account is what are the requirements under the Rome Statute, legal requirements that you need to look into, but also the attention of the International Criminal Court investigation would follow in that sense. You have where you have a sitting government and a rebellion actually fighting, and we have since been investigating both parties. You have the same situation today in Palestine and Israel, where there have been applications from the office for warrant of arrest against the two representatives of the two parties that were in that conflict. In some instances, even though you have two parties in conflict, the determination so lies with whether one is targeting military. Actually, there are military necessities in some instances. What you look at is the facts and whether crimes are being committed by one of the parties or the two parties, and then you start your investigation to determine where the truth lies. And obviously what you do is find information, collect evidence, go to witnesses, talk to victims to try to build your case and determine at the end of the day what, incidents you decide to actually charge or to prosecute.
I've been listening to remarks coming from ICC and it drew my attention to paragraph 5 of which emphasized the that KONY and his LRA group committed to the people of northern Uganda. It emphasized it on women and children. But I want to remind and make clear to ICC that the acts of Joseph Kony during the rebellion time was indiscriminate. Hundreds of men were killed. Go to Badonyo, you'll find so were killed. Go to Badonyo, you'll find so many children whose fathers were killed, abducted and taken. Some of them have not yet been accounted for up to today. So me, I just wonder why in every cases that are committed maybe worldwide, the wise people of the world emphasize only women and children and they neglect men. So men are suffering silently without the world paying attention to them. And I want to make it very clear that we need to. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm called William Achol. I head an organization called Corruption Breaks Crusade. It works for good governance based on human rights. That's how we go about what we do. Firstly, I should like to commend the idea that the ICC court should convene in Uganda here. I think it is very necessary. It helps build the confidence of every stakeholder in Uganda here. Given the fact that the cases take too long, that one will help to know that these cases are not buried somewhere under the carpet. So I think if it could be held here, we would be so happy. And everybody will certainly make an effort to attend it. The other issue which I should like to raise concern about is the fact that should Kony die, then the case will have been written off. The question is, will the court be so insensitive to the sufferings of those who have been hurt by Kony, such that they cannot get their reparations? I think it would be too insensitive. The other thing which I should like to raise also is the definition of harm and abuse by the criminal code. I think that would help us to know what is what. Because if you take the case of somebody who has been sexually violently abused, he suffers both, or she suffers both. Now the other question which is related to it is, how is the reparation quantified for such victims? I end up my case there.
the International Criminal Court. And my question would be, why then should the arrest and or mapping be a very big issue? And I'm aware that you have the thing called the sanctions, we are told in what the proof is not there, perhaps, and we were told that Joseph KONY lived in a country called Central African Republic. I am a mere councillor who lives down in the village, and I know these two. And why must the rest of this still up to this year, 2024? Thank you so much. I rest my case.
Any other hands?
I am Colonel Dennis, one of the Councillor City West Division, Chairperson Education. My question is just simple. Why are we, the ICC, giving away a decent life? We would prefer if you could transfer the case to Uganda, take away to Nalufenya, because what they did to us is so painful. But the way Omwen is living, and as my colleague said, that KONY we hear is just in charge. And I don't think it would be a big issue or a big case for the ICC to get KONY. Because all of us know the Central Republic would be very easy for ICC to get a win or KONY and bring it to board. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Nalufenya is one of the prisons in Uganda with some serious torture takes place.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Omombi Walter. I am the father of victims who were abducted, they never came back. I have a simple comment about reparation. Our village in Apala, where KONY operated for like 2 years, killed people. So where there is a monument.
The people that we know of so far who were taken from the camps, women, to carry heavy loads and go into the bush. And yes, I know some never returned because they were only abducted to carry for a certain time and then into the army. So they were either, some were released, but some were just killed. Yes, but we feature that as far as we know of it. And it will be my hope that when the participation of victims process takes off, that we will have a better picture of that through the participation of victims, also male victims. Yeah. The prosecutor has started to shine more of a light on the plight of children than the ICC has done in the past. He recognizes that they are the most vulnerable members of a community, wherever in the world. So the charges here also take that into account. But I hope my answer at least shows you that men feature, boys feature. If a boy of 17-year-old is abducted and enslaved in the LRA, his story features. Yeah. Yes, I'm wondering, do you want to talk about reparations, the last one? About Abia? Okay, I do this, take this issue before passing on to Dahiro. So yes, the indictment against Joseph KONY goes beyond the case of Dominic Ongwen. And it is our hope that this will be the mechanism to finally include the victims that are left out of the Ong Wen case. So Ong Wen case does not have anything to do with Abia or Barlonio as the decision of the judges went. So, but the KONY case has broadened that scope. So Abia features as a charged incident, the killing of the people in Abia. Barlonio features. But please know that as long as we do not have him arrested and we start a real trial and he gets convicted, there won't be any reparations. So I can't promise you anything, and I share your pain in that regard, that you feel left out because it is going very slow and we don't know whether we will ever achieve it. What I can tell you is we're working very hard to try to achieve it. Also for Abia and Barlonio. So maybe I pass on to you now for the other question.
Maybe just building a bit further, maybe in that sense, Apala may be featuring in that. But one thing I think you also need to